it's such a big testament, and that's why I brought up the word agape at the beginning. It's this suffering love.
Yeah, my definition of charity has always been
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week of the Lost Sheep podcast. And that was a little bit sketchier of an intro because I forgot to switch back to the regular camera. But you may notice again, curly-headed man is not in attendance again. He is busy today getting ready for his trip to Cali, good old California. I actually did not know he was going on the trip. Did you? Did
yeah,
you
I
have any
had
clue
I
about that?
I had no clue when he texted us in the group chat. I was just like, okay, cool. He's going to California.
But yeah, those of you who are surprised to see Evan back from last episode after we told you his contract had expired, he re-signed with us. So he's here again. We didn't we kicked him out for a little bit and then had to he reached out to us, and so we negotiated another phase of our sign duration. I don't really know.
Look, man, free agency is tough. Free agency is really tough. No, but I had a wonderful week. I went back to Tuscaloosa. I told y'all this. And so I had a really good time just seeing friends and people, moving furniture into the new house. Super excited about that. Really nice place. Um, Nice grill and like back patio area. So I'm super excited to have people over at like game day and stuff like that. But just super stoked. A lot of driving. 10 hours there, 10 hours back. So brutal driving, but happy to be back. Happy to be recording again from the comfort of my very humble abode. But what have you been up to these last 2 weeks? I feel like you had just said this before the episode started, but I feel like we haven't talked to each other in such a long time.
Yeah, it has been a minute. I went to Ohio with the business side of my family, so my dad's side, and we went to Niagara Falls and Cuyahoga Valley, I think is how you say it. It's a
Cuyahoga,
national park.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
in Ohio, incredible. It's just so insane just seeing the beauty of creation and like how God really like there's no limits. Niagara Falls was incredible, and we got to go on a boat. They call it the Maids of the Mist tour, and you are just in the center of the falls in the water, and it's nuts. Like the sheer power that's generated from that water, it's incredible and a feat that cannot be accomplished by mankind. So really really beautiful, and then got to see all my family in Chagrin Falls in Ohio and meet up with them, and that was really really neat. We haven't all been together from that side of my family in like 4 years. We've had like a couple mini reunions, but everybody was together on that. So that was it's so fun to see everybody. But you have don't you have a wisdom tooth surgery coming up over there?
Yeah, dude. Actually hyped. So I was supposed to
You're hyped.
get this lore drop. I was supposed to get this a couple years ago. And then when I busted up my ankle, that whole surgery kind of took precedence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'm finally getting my wisdom teeth removed. Very excited to have them stop telling me that they're always like, I feel like I get super fear mongered being over 20 and going to the dentist because they're like, dude, man, you need to get your wisdom teeth out. Otherwise, your face is going to explode. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? But like every time I go into the dentist, they're always like, dude, ugh, I don't know how you still have those in. So maybe I've just been in unbelievable pain and pressure from my wisdom teeth, and I just don't know about it. My life's gonna get so much better, but yeah, just getting those things out. So we had to shoot this without Nazario. We couldn't. Oh, phone call, but we had to shoot this without Nazario. We couldn't quite get the schedules to align with him going to California and me, of course, not going to be able to film under the influence of whatever they give me for my wisdom teeth. So I'm very happy that I'm doing it. Man, room tour. Um, I'm very happy that I'm getting to do it back at home, and so I don't have little nuisances filming me the whole time, because that is my deepest, darkest fear, is having you people film me. Although I'm sure that if you reach out to Caroline, she'll somehow have a video. So, you know, yeah. But
I just so you know, I do expect this a picture of your swelling on day 2. That way, it can make the thumbnail for this episode.
compared with
So
Nazario, yeah.
so
Yeah.
I need to find all of our wisdom teeth pictures, and
And
that'll
put
be
them
the
side by
thumbnail
side by side.
for that shirt.
The
That's
wisdom
so
tooth
funny.
episode.
Oh my gosh,
Hey,
that'd
we
be
should do. We
hilarious.
should speak of the devil. Our topic next week should be wisdom. We can pick a quote from the book
Oh,
of wisdom, and we can go on that.
we haven't
So
done that before. I really don't think we've done that before, honestly,
no,
which is
that would be
crazy,
that would be low key sick, and then we could drop the wisdom teeth thumbnails. This is cooking. We're cooking right
dude.
now. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
cooking. Yeah, we could drop the wisdom teeth thumbnail like 1, 2, 3, boom. Yeah,
Okay,
that'd be
okay, let's
fire.
do it.
Anyway,
Let's do it.
anyway. I digress. This week, you want to get into our quote?
Yeah, and before
You're
I
over
get
here.
into our quote, I haven't talked to you about this, Evan. But Nazario and I did some brainstorming, and mainly it was my idea. But we have our our transitions are the same, but I added some things, and so I figured I'd just surprise you with it this episode. I'm really disappointed Nazario's not here for it. But our whole thing was just to see what you thought about it in the middle of the episode. So you guys, we're trying something new.
And before we get into that, we got shout out to I forget her name. I saw her name. Our giveaway winner person. Shout out to the giveaway if y'all are interested in getting merch and stuff. I figured I'd plug at the beginning of the episode too, but if you're interested in getting merch and stuff, some more giveaways coming, especially as we get closer to school. Some more stuff coming. As close as we get closer to being back together, and actually shooting this show live, where we bounce off of each other and whatnot, where it's much easier to get the banter going. As we get close to that, just keep your eyes peeled. Also, keep your eyes peeled for the mailbag episode announcement that I'm very, very excited for. All right, intro us away, sir.
We're gonna key this. It has sound. So
Ladies and gentlemen, the quote of the week.
and welcome back.
All right, so I apologize for everyone on just audio because that was the loudest thing I've ever heard. We're gonna need to remaster that. That's hilarious. We should have just gotten Nazario to do a voiceover. Honestly,
Oh, I can
um,
change the volume. Hold up.
yeah, we should reduce that because I had to. Yeah, they'll saw me. I had to take my earphones off. That was so loud. All right,
Oh, just a
but
reminder, that's one of 3 transitions.
oh, brutal.
Okay.
Turn down the volume on all of them.
Got
Without
it.
further ado, our quote for the week is over here. Quote of the week is from Princess Diana, and it says, "Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward, safe in the knowledge that one day someone might do the same for you." Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward, safe in the knowledge that one day someone might do the same for you. And I have the wonderful pleasure, since, again, it's a wonderful duo, of tossing this over to you, Cole Bissett, for your initial thoughts. And this is when I read this, my first thought in my head, I didn't share this with you, but I was like, man, this is such a Cole Bissett quote. So I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on this.
Can I ask why
No,
it's
no,
a
you can't.
Cole Bissett quote? Will it be
No, you can't.
clarified later on in the episode?
Yeah, sure. Sure, I'll clarify later in the episode. But I want to hear your thoughts first.
Oh, okay. So, okay, we'll go with that. So my first, you know what? I'm literally about to ask you a definition, and I'm so sorry that I'm about to do this. I have not done this in a minute. And so
10
I feel like
seconds
I'm
in the
failing.
episode.
But the word that comes to my mind, which this is normally how it goes, but the word that comes to my mind is charity. So I want to ask you, what is the definition of charity? Evan, take it away. Go for it.
Yeah, my definition of charity has always been, because I think, when we talk about the theological virtue of charity, a lot of people would just say, oh, charity is love. But charity is I think charity is closer to sacrifice than we give it credit for. I think charity is giving without expectation of return, which, I mean, I can see where you're going with this. Wow. See, I put him right on the spot. Look at that. Which, 3 feet from the pin. Yeah, that's what I would go with for my definition of charity: giving without expectation of return.
Exactly. You kind of like just jumped like 3 points into where I was gonna go with that, so I'm a little stuck. I guess I'm just gonna go straight for it.
Bullseye.
Agape. It's agape. Which is the highest form of love, which is a love that you get. That it's a love that you can deliver to somebody, and it's through suffering, and it's love that Jesus gave to all of us, and through the greatest act of charity, when he died on the cross and suffered because of his love for us. And so I'm gonna pull this quote up just for a second, if I can get it back up on screen. Boom. Cool. Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward, safe in the knowledge that one day someone might do the same for you. I guess I'm a little bit confused with the quote.
It wouldn't be an episode if you weren't.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Carry out a random act of kindness. I'm confused because it says carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward. I got that. Like, that makes sense. Okay, but then why are you safe in the knowledge that one day someone might do the same for you? Because that would be kind of like an expectation, isn't it? Do you get where I'm going with it?
Yeah.
Do you get the confusion? Am I crazy?
Yeah. What's your take? I mean, what's your take?
My
It
take,
seems
contradictory.
it seems paradoxical, no?
Yeah.
And I actually,
Is it?
funny enough, I picked up a new talking about paradox. I picked up a new edition of the Screw Tape Letters today, so shout out that I'm definitely going to be rereading it. Yeah, it does seem a little bit paradoxical. I think reading it through the first time, I don't think in the first one she's Princess Diana. I don't think she's saying like, do it like there's no expectation of reward. I think she's saying that like that's how we're supposed to act, right? And I kind of think she's dipping into the karma well here, right? Of like, do something good, someday something might happen to you, right? And I think the first part she's saying, do that random act of kindness like there's not going to be a reward. Do it because it's good. Do it because it's kind. And lo and behold, something might happen to you, right? Like something good could happen to you, something bad could happen to you, right? But be safe that like, say the universe or God might come back and say, hey, look at all this good this person has done for the world. One day someone might do the same for you, right? I think it's almost two different statements about the expectations. But it does seem slightly paradoxical. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just confusing sometimes a little bit to me.
Well, I also think, when I look at this, my first thoughts on this from a faith perspective, right, are, and this is kind of a lob up for the Shepherd of the Week. I should have thought about this. But our Shepherd of the Week is fantastic. And I'm sure you've done this person, Mother Teresa, right? A lot of people talk about Mother Teresa, and it's like, a lot of saints had no earthly reward. It's kind of like a saintly thing, right? You're rewarded in heaven. But like Mother Teresa is a special case where really she lived her life with no rewards. She lived with the poor. She was poor. She fed, clothed, bathed the people in the worst condition, and she had no reward for that. And so, that's the first part of the statement. Do those good acts because they're good acts. Mother Teresa didn't, and man, I'm jumping ahead in the episode, but part of our Marian consecration, Mother Teresa is part of it too, that I'm doing with Caroline Sims. Love her a lot. But Mother Teresa, she did these because she had these visions of Jesus talking about his thirst, and how he thirsted for souls. And Mother Teresa said, I share in Jesus' thirst for souls. I want to see those souls saved, those souls in heaven, and those souls cared for. And so she did that because she desired the goodness for those souls. And so she did not do those good deeds with any expectation that there was going to be any return, right? And I don't think any of those people could have given her anything she had have wanted. But also, lo and behold, she's a saint. She got a really, as far as rewards go, she's got one of the best ones, right? Being in heaven and eternal praise with Christ. And so I think, yeah, again, going back to this paradox, I think it's almost a dual statement. We talk about the importance of punctuation. This could be a comma, or this could be a semicolon, a greater break in this to really exhibit like the discontinuity of thought in this statement of carry out that random act of kindness without expectation, but also be safe in the knowledge that one day something might happen that's good in your life, and someone might turn around and do a good act for you.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think it's kind of like, it's almost kind of like a, what's the word? Come on. A shout to, gosh, man, my brain is not putting this together. Like a call to action, a shout to action, a call to action. It's kind of like, if everybody did this, then we should be safe in the knowledge that someday someone might do it for us, right? Because someone will, right? And so, I'm doing the rights. You got to stop me. We need to do like
Right.
a right button.
Yeah, rubber band.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could
I
have control of
should.
the studio, I could hit a buzzer every time you did it, but
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we just discovered today that Evan has not seen anything that Nazario and I do on the
so
screen
this
somehow.
this is actually a hilarious story, because Nazario and Cole, whenever we're in the podcast, they're always like, "Oh, Evan, down on the bottom where you see like the the slides and the presentation and the quote and all the reactions and stuff," and I'm like, I'm always just assuming like, I don't know, I'm not clicking the right button or something. Turns out I have a completely different screen than they can see on our studio here. So we're gonna have to figure that out, so I can randomly come in with buzzers and things. The episodes are gonna get way more chaotic after you give me creative control, but it'll be interesting.
And it's so funny
yeah.
that you just sat in confusion
Um,
for however many episodes we've
mean,
recorded this summer and not said a word.
I didn't really need them that bad, but yeah. The other thing that kind of comes to my mind here is maybe it's like The Sims or something. And so in life is like this. This is just my metaphor. But in The Sims, you have like a relationship bar. Have you ever played The Sims?
I have not
Um,
The Sims. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Trying to think of something different. I don't even know. I like certain video games, you have like a relationship bar, and it's like every time you interact with that person, like your relationship gets better, right?
Okay.
And so like, I kind of think of it like that. Like you do one random act of kindness, you see that person again, they're gonna remember you. And so like, if I'm walking down the street in my neighborhood and I help my neighbor out, move furniture into the house or something, right? Well, then, they might see me a few days later and I'm struggling with some other task I'm doing. And they're like, hey, like, let me help you out with that. These random acts of kindness really foster goodwill, I think is kind of that. And I think that's a Christmas, we talk about fostering goodwill a lot about in the holidays for some reason, but fostering goodwill in everyday life of just being neighborly, being loving, being friendly to everybody you encounter is a big part of this. Like, expect nothing in return, but know that, it's a compounding effect, right? I'm sharing actions with people, they're sharing actions with me, and we're, everybody's making the world go round, and we're, being kind in general. So um, that's a second thought I kind of had in relation to this.
No. Yeah, it is weird how it kind of gets boosted around the holiday times. I think it's like humanity has this thing where it's like, okay, we're going to be kind during this month. This is how we show that we're good. Which is totally the wrong way to go about it. Um so yeah, I like I said, I think this is a call to action from Princess Diana, and I want to bring a quote from somebody who he probably could have been our shepherd of the week as well. So I'm gonna like say he's like a joint shepherd of the week. Funny enough, his name is Job, um, and you may be thinking Job, like the guy from the
The
Bible, and I'm like,
prophet?
yep,
Yeah.
yep, that's exactly who I'm talking
Okay.
about. Is
Shout
it's
out. Shout
Job.
out.
Um, and so we're talking about charity, and we're talking about agape, and it's this suffering love that you can give to somebody when you really don't really have it in you to give to them, but you still give it anyways. It's the love that God gives us every single day. Except God always had in him, which is different. But the quote I want to bring is from Job chapter 6, verse 14. He who withholds kindness from a friend forsakes the fear of the Almighty. I'm going to repeat it for you. He who withholds kindness from a friend forsakes the fear of the Almighty. Anytime you get a chance, and I feel like I've done this on multiple episodes, if there's something you see in somebody, in someone, and you're like, wow, that is a really cool feature, or they have a talent, and you're like, wow, they're really good, like, don't hesitate about it. And I see myself doing this all the time where I'm like, okay, wow, this person is extremely talented at this. Or even for like dudes, like I know this is like the biggest compliment for a guy, and I've said this in previous episodes, but like seeing when you tell someone, dang, like you've been working out, and they're like, yeah, I have. And it's like, you can tell they're walking away smiling, like, let's go. Like the progress is like, it's working. Like I'm doing something good. Um, and I think what's even more impactful about this quote is like, who is Job? Do you want to explain Job to the people to understand why it's so crazy that he's the person that's saying this, that's talking about kindness?
Yeah, so Job, the book of Job is a singular person outlining a singular event in their life. So it's not like the gospel where it's a narrative about Jesus, but it's, about everything that he does. This is about a very specific instance in Job's life, and it's, I think, 18 chapters, 20
Yeah,
plus
it's not too
chapters.
long.
But basically the premise is Job is this guy who has all these belongings. He has the perfect life, right? He has this big family, this big farm, all this stuff. And one day, Satan comes to God and says, your servant Job, I can make him turn against you. And God says, okay, you can do anything you want. You just can't physically harm Job. You can do anything you want. You can do whatever. You just cannot physically harm Job. And so in no short time, the devil takes away all of Job's belongings. His entire family dies. All of his friends rebuke him. He's sent into exile. And then when he's, homeless living off the land, there's a drought, and then there's like plagues and stuff. And so basically this guy who has been rich and rejoicing in God's love his whole life is reduced to nothing, no family, no friends, and living in a barren desert pretty much. But yet Job still doesn't die. And at the end of all this, Job says, well, as you can see from the quote, throughout the whole book, Job keeps his faith, right? There are periods where Job says, like, what's going on, man? God, why did I do to deserve this? There's some great lamentations in Job about, like, I long for my goods, I long for my family, whatever, all this stuff. And at the end of it, Job doesn't refute God. And I think even to the point of like Satan coming down to Job basically and being like, dude, has like God literally took away everything from you. And Job is like, it must have been the right thing for me. Like, if God didn't want me to have all this stuff, then that must have been, that's obviously his will. It must be for my betterment. And Satan is finally exasperated and is like, whatever, you win, God. And then God gives Job all his stuff back in, 7 and tenfold. And he has a huge family and more goods because of his devotion. But really a beautiful story, really a wonderful thing. And it is a testament, right, to this quote of basic kindness, because when Job was in that destitution, kindness is not the thing you think of, right? The first thing I would think of would be, how am I surviving? How am I getting my next meal? How am I, doing X, doing Y? But that was his thing, right? Like, he was so confident that God would take care of him that even in his most destitute, he wasn't asking like, oh, well, he was asking, oh, why did this happen to me? But he wasn't saying like, oh God, like, darn you, this is so terrible, I hate you. But how can I be kind to others? Like, a man that isn't kind, 6th chapter, by then he's probably had at least his possessions taken away and his sons. But by this chapter, he's still like, oh, if you're not kind, what are you doing? Like, if you're not kind, you're turning your back on God. And that's incredible. But a very short summary that was kind of long of the book of Job.
Yeah, and I like, just to add on to that, I was very excited that I remember us talking about the book of Job a lot, and how I told you it was my favorite book in the Bible, and I remember you saying how much.
It's 42 chapters. Shout out.
Oh, never mind. A lot longer than we thought.
Yeah.
But I just remember how we had a good conversation, so I knew it was okay to put you on the spot about that story. But to add on to that, and the reason why I asked Evan to bring that up is, when people ask me what my favorite book of the Bible is, and I say Job, they're kind of like, that's kind of sad. And I was like, and it is a sad story, but in retrospect and thinking about it, when I hear people say that to me, I said I should actually challenge them to change it and look at it at a different perspective. I think Job is one of the greatest love stories of all kind. If you think about it, right? Because he's challenged throughout the entirety of the book, and it's terrible. Like, the things he goes through are terrible. The devil manipulates so much of his life, and he's challenged every single day, more than any of us are challenged in a day, and yet he still remains faithful. And he does ask the question, like, sometimes, like, God, this is rough, man. Like, are we cool? Like, what's happening? But he stays faithful, and that's what's important. And then on top of all that, to say, he who does not give kindness to a friend is forgetting, it does not have fear of God. Like, how in the world, on top of all that, like, suffering and agony, are you able to tell somebody that they should be kind to somebody else? And it's like, it's such a big testament. And that's why I brought up the word agape at the beginning. It's this suffering love. The love that you want to give, that you give to your best friend, the love that you give to all your friends, the love that you should give to somebody in a relationship, your parents, your family. And most importantly, it's the love that you should give to God, because it's the love that he gives to you endlessly. And so I love the book of Job. I could yap forever about this book. So yeah.
So yeah, one quote from the book of Job that really puts your love story into perspective, because it's interesting. And then I have a question.
Okay.
A spur on. But this is from Job chapter 2. This is at the beginning, because I was curious about actually reading it again. But this is one of my favorite quotes of all time, and every time I come across it, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So this is just when Satan has come to God, right? And unprompted. Then the Lord's verse 3, chapter 2, verse 3. Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job?" Satan had just told him that he's been traveling across the earth, just looking at the earth, looking at people. "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. And he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason." And so this is in chapter 2. And this is after, right? Satan has like come to the Lord and says, "Well, let me do everything." And so Satan took out like everything. He took out his possessions. He took out uh, like everything, right? And finally, God says, "Yeah, like still after all this, Job's a great guy." And I just gotta imagine, when you get to heaven and God's like, "Have you seen my servant Cole? He's a pretty good guy. My servant Cole, he's the best." And this is my Donald Trump impression, but
I was about to
my
say that
best
sounded really
servant,
Trumpy.
yeah, my best servant Job, great guy.
Oh gosh.
So that's just such a cool thing. But more my thing is, first part of this quote, right? Going back to it a little bit, we talk about, it says carry out a random act of kindness. And I think that's very important because there's another quote that I can relate this to where we talk about in the Bible random versus non-random acts. And you're gonna see what I'm talking about in a second. But what do you think? What do you think of the word random here?
Let me look at the quote so I can answer. Fruitfully, carry out a random act of kindness. I think it's kind of like guided by your intuition. Is what they mean by random. Like, in a sense, random isn't actually random in this quote. Like, like do what you are. Are you about to disagree with me? Probably, but
I don't know. You haven't finished.
I have not finished. But do what you feel in your heart that God is telling you to do, right? Like when I was talking earlier, like you see somebody that's talented and you're like, "Oh, they're really good." And then you ignore it. That God's telling you to tell them, "Oh, you're really good." Like stuff like that. In those moments, like it isn't random. Like sure it happens at random times, but when you notice it, it is an intentional choice to go up to that person, if that makes sense. Where are you wanting to head with that?
Yeah. So this is my big summary of kind of this quote, but and this is where I want to attack kind of this paradoxical nation of it, right? Notion of this quote, of it being random, is the most important word in this quote. And so what I'm reading from is Matthew chapter 6, and it's verse 1 and 2. It's Jesus talking. Be careful. Oh, another phone call. Be
Jeez.
careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And so, as we wait for Cole to come back, this is kind of what I'm talking about with this word random being the center point of this quote. Because if it just said carry out an act of kindness with no expectation of reward, right? We could say, oh, I don't expect any reward out of this, but I'm going to do this act of kindness like the Pharisees in the synagogue, where I blow my trumpet and I, am donating and I'm dropping in my coins so languidly and look at me, look at me. And I'm not getting any reward per se out of that. I'm not getting any money. I'm not getting any favors back. But I get this gratification from people seeing what I'm doing. And so random here kind of means two things to me. The first is unprompted, right? Like, oh, well, I already donate to the church. I do my electronic donation to the church. But when the basket's coming around, I'm just like, oh, I have $10 in my wallet that I found on the ground the other day, right? Like, stick it in there. It's unprompted. It's random. But also when things arise, when occasions arise that you have the opportunity to choose kindness, do so, right? And that's the sacrifice of self that we talk about, right? If you're walking down the street and you see your neighbor trying to move in the couch and you're like, oh man, I was supposed to meet someone for lunch at 11 and it's 10:50 and I might not make it, but you see that they're really struggling. that's a call to stop. And to say like, hey, my friend is going to understand if I'm 4 minutes late to lunch because my neighbor was, struggling moving their furniture and they really look like they could use a hand, right? So when those random opportunities arise to be kind, to be good, to be the hands and feet of Christ here on earth, those are the occasions where you have no expectation of reward, right? But we know we are safe in the knowledge that one day, because we choose to live kind, because we choose to live good, because we choose to live as servants of Christ, that one day someone, God, is going to do good in our lives. And again, we're seeking good for good. We're seeking good because of the property of good, because we desire to be unified with true goodness in heaven in Christ. It's not because, oh man, I'm going to get this, he's going to pay me $5 if I do this. It's because of that unification with good that our heart desires, that our soul desires, that innate desire that we've been created with, that we're kind of pulled towards those acts of good. And it's only the twisting of the world that has made us think that, oh man, we should get a reward out of this because we've worked hard, and that's not always true.
Yeah, I think it's really complimentary too to speak on top of that. That last week's episode was all about work, and how work is a good thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that you get to do. And Nazario had mentioned how the wear on your body that you get from work is actually like it's your markings that you've done something for the world. Um, and so just to speak on top of this, you were mentioning earlier, like if you see your neighbor struggling with a trash can, help them lift it up, help them move it. Like people will understand. Earlier today, I was on Instagram and I was scrolling through, um, and sadly, we hear all about this passing of all the people in Texas, with these floods that are extremely sad. It's very tragic, but the faith that these children have through all of these things is so beautiful, and the charity that people give, even if they don't have anybody involved in it, it's phenomenal. You have so many people, right, like who are not doing it for the cameras. They're doing it purely because they want to help their neighbors, their friends with lost siblings, and it's incredible to see what people do when they're united through kindness. Another thing that happened today on our Instagram page, not our Instagram page, on my Instagram, I was scrolling today, doom scroll, bad doom scroll, but I was scrolling and I saw this post from Coleman Daily, which is where I'm from, and it's kind of our news outlet, and it was a UPS driver who literally dropped off a package and helped their neighbors pick up trash that scattered all the way around on the ground because of a raccoon or something like that. And he had no idea that somebody was out there taking a picture of him, right? And it shows how much like kindness unnoticed, this not random kindness, right? Like it impacts the world in more ways than you know, right? Like God allowed him to have kindness in that moment, for it to be posted on Coleman Daily, for other people to be inspired by his kindness to want to do the same thing. And so it is this, what's the word? What's the sin? It's the opposite. It's the counterpart of the sin. That when you do it, what's the sin that when you do it, and it affects somebody else and causes somebody else to sin? It's the sin of, man, it's really getting at me.
Yeah, I'm out of my depth here.
It's
The
like
sin that causes other people to sin.
It's sin that when you do it and it affects other people see it, and so it makes them fall into sin. I don't remember what that sin's called.
I'm not sure we can make other people fall into sin, but that's a completely
No.
different.
It's just
a completely
like
different
it makes
conversation.
other people think it's a good thing to do, if that makes sense. Scandal. Got it. Bang. Got it. It's in my head.
That's the oddest definition of scandal I've ever heard. But yeah.
The sin. It's the counterpart of the sin of scandal, right? Like doing good and other people seeing you do good are gonna cause them to, or allow
Want to do
them
good.
to do more good. And so,
Yeah.
like with the sin of scandal, doing bad and making other people think the bad is a good thing is going to allow them to choose the bad more. And so that's why these random acts of kindness are just moments that God's allowing you to show that kindness to another person and to allow another person to give that kindness to someone else, which again follows what Princess Diana is saying. Give kindness and expect it back from no one, but be safe in the knowledge that someone will do it for you one day as well. And so it kind of gives on to that. Are we good to move on to our practical prayer practice?
I was about to say, let's shoot on to our practical prayer practice.
Yeah.
We'll come back to any final thoughts we have
Pretty far
at the
along
end of the
this
episode.
episode.
So,
Here we go.
launch that intro.
Ladies and gentlemen, the practical prayer practice of the week.
So there you go. I turned down the volume on that one.
It's literally the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't understand, but like it's somehow louder. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, practical prayer practice of the week. I think this is something. It's funny because Cole brought this up, and it was something that I immediately said, "Oh yeah, I do that too," but I do it a little differently. But this is I don't know. I'm not sure that this is ever an ordained thing. I think it's just kind of like a snap thing. But our practical prayer practice of the week is praying for ambulances. And I'll lump right in there first responders. If you're in a car or whatever, wherever you are, see an ambulance go by, a cop with their lights on, something like that, just hit a quick prayer. Cole does a Hail Mary and Our Father and a Glory Be. I prefer to do a guardian angel prayer. But just, say a prayer for them, because you don't know where they're going. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what they're heading into. And so, they need those prayers. The people in the ambulance need those prayers. The people in the back of the cop car need those prayers. So it's just a cool way to spread prayer and to bless othersin your life.
Yeah, totally. I don't really know what I have to add on that. Even if you just hear the sirens, there's moments in our car where I'm driving with my entire family and we all stop the moment we hear the sirens or see it and just quickly pray it. You have no idea how much effect a prayer can have in a situation. And so those people that are in those situations could use any prayer that they could get, even if you don't know them. And that's why we are talking about kindness today. Praying for this person when you have no clue, no idea who this person is, it is an act of kindness. If it's a trend that's caught on between so many people that Evan and I both do it, and I know other people that do it, then it's a lot more common than we think. So let's continue to boost this trend because I think it's a very beautiful habit to have. So, yeah, I think that's all I got for the practical prayer practice. Is that pretty cool? Cool with
Quick
that?
and easy one this week, yeah. But
Yeah.
really do it, and it's an easy thing. Like this does. I mean, I often we talk about, our practical prayer practice segment has more evolved into like an introduction to prayer almost, right? It's not really like, because if we did all of these practical prayer practices all the time, we'd only be praying all the time. But this one, which I mean, God willing, I would love to be always praying all the time. But this one is one that's very easy to do at all times in your life. So shout out just practical prayer practice of your life. But yeah.
I
Let's
think it's really funny. Well, can I?
no.
Okay, I was
Shoot,
gonna say I think it's really funny how we've structured it, our podcast nowadays, because we were talking about prayer and work last week with the statement "Ora et labora," which is the Benedictine motto that I grew up with, in my
Pray
high
and
school.
work.
It's all over the place. Pray and
Yeah.
work, and so our quote is kind of like a work, right? Like we're working on ourselves through this quote, and then we're practicing it through prayer. And so we're doing Ora et labora, and it's our challenge each week. It's why we have one a week, right? And it's the Benedictine motto because you need to find that balance. You can't pray all the time, right? It's a good thing to pray a bunch, but you can't pray all the time, and you can't work all the time. And so it's finding the balance between the two to make it 50-50. That makes it so beautiful. And so it's neat that our episodes ended up structured that way. But I guess it's kind of cool that it happened that way. So yeah. All right, let's move on to our shepherd of the week, and I will let Evan take the reins on this one. But here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, the shepherd of the week.
There we go. I actually turned the volume down on that one, so it really wasn't that loud for you.
Yeah, maybe it's individual. Maybe it's an individual thing. Maybe like
Maybe.
it's gonna be unhear, like they're gonna be unable to hear it on the recording, but just for me it's loud. So yeah, Shepherd of the Week. I mentioned before, Caroline and I are in the midst of our second annual Marian consecration, which I'm super stoked about. I'm very much looking forward to that being a recurring theme in our relationship, and keeping this specific date. So ours, we started in I think it's June 13th. We start on June 13th and we end on July 16th, the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, which is a really cool feast day. But it also gives us the opportunity. This year we both got brown scapulars, so it gives us the opportunity to don the brown scapular as a couple and do that as well as our Marian consecration. But I mentioned earlier that one of the saints that we'd been reading about was Mother Teresa. Another one is our shepherd of the week, as Cole apparently looks around for his dog under the table. Our shepherd of the week is Saint Pope John Paul II, who was a great Marian saint. Of course, one of the lead purveyors of the Second Vatican Council, but also just a lead purveyor of one of the topics that is near and dear to Cole Bissett's and Nazario Pangallo's hearts, which is theology of the body. They originally began as audiences, as addresses, and then he compiled them into books so that we could read them. And the fruit from those things have impacted the world greatly. And the fruit from Vatican II has impacted the world greatly as well. But one of those popes who truly cared about just living and loving and being kind. There's very few JP2 stories that aren't like, man, I met him and I was blown away by how gentle and loving he was. And maybe we have done him as Shepherd of the Week, Cole, if he comes back. I remember a few weeks ago we talked about JP2 after his assassination attempt. Maybe this is like the second time we've done this in 8 weeks on accident. But we talked about JP2 with his assassination attempt and how he forgave that person so easily. And just, I don't have him on here, so maybe this is the first time we've done him.
I don't think we've done it before, yeah.
Bang. But just how he forgave that person so easily, and how loving and kind and just want that desire for souls to be united with Christ, that makes all great saints great. I think if I could say what's one quality that makes all great saints great, I would say that all great saints have a desire to unite souls with Christ most abundantly. And JP2's was, and he's such a great Marian saint, his method of uniting souls with Christ's grace, with his love, was through our mother and mediator, Mary. So a wonderful, wonderful saint. I'm sure you have more to add from the theology of body perspective. So take it away. I see you searching vigorously for something, so I'm really hyped to hear what this is.
Really quickly here, this is what I was trying to do, and this is the reason my camera cut off. But here you go. This is, if it loads, not that. Boom.
It's not a YouTube
Looky
video.
there.
Oh, okay,
That
there we go.
is the grave of, and I can put this on here because I took this picture.
Yeah,
was
sick.
there.
I was gonna say, are we getting copyrighted for whatever he's about to put up?
No, this is the actual grave of Pope John Paul II. He is right there, and it was really sad actually when we went there. If you look, this is not the greatest picture because you see that little curtain at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
They actually covered it up at this time period, I think, because they were afraid of tourists getting like this was after the time there was somebody apparently that went up to St. Peter, the altar at St. Peter, and threw all the
Through the
candles on the ground.
candelabras. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And so I think they've been a little hesitant on it about some of this stuff with
Yeah.
the tourism, but there it is right there. And so I reached my phone above the curtain to take a picture. And so
Do you remember what church he's in?
this is St. Peter's. This is
Oh, he's in St. Peter's?
yeah, he's one of the Bay Saints along with Saint Peter and Saint Leo. I think there's 24 saints that are buried in St. Peter's. There's a lot of saints buried there. I think the same day I saw St. Thomas's thumb. I saw a bunch of different things throughout the same day. St. Peter's is huge, very overwhelming how much beauty there is in the place because you can't focus on anything. So
Okay,
there's
are you
so
ready?
much. Yep, go for it.
Here's all the people who are buried, and this will be our trivia, and then we'll keep going. But here's all the people who are buried in St. Peter's Basilica. So of course there's St. Peter, but there's also 90 popes buried in St. Peter's Basilica, including modern ones such as JP2, John the 13th, Pius the 12th, Paul the 6th, Benedict the 15th, and Pope Francis. There is also some famous people buried in St. Peter's Basilica, such as, pardon me, Queen Christina of Sweden. She converted to Catholicism after abdicating her throne and moved to Rome. And also the Stuart Pretenders, James III, Charles Edward Stuart. They were the British exiled royals and never ruled. But yeah, there's a lot of popes, and most of them are underneath, I believe. So the ones on view are different than the ones buried underneath. But like I know St. Peter is like right there. He's pretty in the middle, and along with I think it is 23 others that are along the walls. But yeah, super cool, and it is, man. I'm just I want to go to Rome just to see, man. I'm just so fired up. So
there's so much, like
I know
it's overwhelming. One of the cool things about JP2, really quickly, is the phrase "be not afraid" actually was coined by him. So that's where we get that all the time. I didn't actually know that. I don't know if I ever questioned who said that. But yeah, be not afraid.
First, of course, that is the angel Gabriel's greeting to Mary, right? Be not afraid. But yeah, he was one of the people who said that often. So
yeah,
goated.
So
Saint.
kind of is like a praise for his papacy. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we will go to our final little thoughts on the quote, and then we will close out the episode. Do you want to start?
Besides, I mean, look, you got to take your opportunities to be kind, to be just, when they're presented to you, take them, and just be kind in general, right? Obviously. But yeah, take your opportunities to be kind, to be true, and to just be loving to the people that are around you when those opportunities come up.
Yeah. I guess for me, I mean, I literally give the same piece of advice with kindness every time. Anytime that comes up, again, same thing as you act on it. Like when you get that little nudge, they're like, oh, I should say something to that person. That's God telling you to say something to that person. I was thinking about that today. Weirdly, it's skid steer thought. Like y'all have shower thoughts. I'm a farmer, so I have them on a skid steer. And I was like, man, I get those nudges a lot, and I don't act on it a lot. And I was like, I should do it. And so, just act on it. It's a great little motto and prayer practice to have, on top of the things that we had already for this episode. And remember, don't expect a reward. If you're expecting a reward, you're bringing a sense of pride into the quote. And so the whole point of kindness is to strip pride from it and do it through humility, in a sense that you know what you have, and the way you act and what you can say to a person can truthfully change their day entirely. And with that power in your mind, and it's important to be intentional with it, and directing your purpose towards the good, and not to manifest it in a way that's prideful. But yeah, other than that, Evan already plugged earlier in the episode, but I will remind you again, please like, subscribe, comment. We have the mailbag episode coming up. So did I forget something? Like, subscribe, comment. No, cool. And then we had the mailbag episode coming up. So comment questions. Like that's when we say comment. Like, you can comment whatever you want, but if you want to, please comment a question. We love answering them. We love talking on our little platforms and responding. Next, we have bracelets, free bracelets. They're always free. You literally just have to ask us. And then we have t-shirts as well. I think they're like 18 to $20. It's not too bad for a t-shirt when you're thinking of merch, like price-wise. And then final little thing, giveaway will be coming around the corner shortly. Not 100% sure what the date on that will be, but I can tell you the contents that'll be in the package just so you can prepare yourself. We will have a bracelet in the package, just a usual little gift. And then we will have a Lost Sheep Podcast shirt, and you'll get to choose whatever color you want on the little giveaway thing. We will have a white T-shirt, but you are free to choose whatever. And then I believe my plan was to purchase a rugged rosary for you guys, which if you don't know what rugged rosary is, you should totally go look them up. They are a wonderful company that makes rosaries using the paracord from parachutes that the soldiers use in the army, and the beads are stainless steel, so they will not break. I still have mine from my confirmation retreat as a freshman. It is a beautiful, beautiful rosary. And so that'll be the contents, and of course there will be a handwritten letter from us, and maybe a sticker if I'm feeling good about it. We had recently just shipped our package over to Kaylin. That's the girl that we sent them over to in Indiana, I believe is where she was from. So shout out to her. We just figured out that she got the package safe and sound. Oh, and there I go again. But Evan, you can close out the episode since I am.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening. This has been episode number 60 of the Lost Sheep Podcast. Have a great week and God bless.